generally munches or chanting repeatedly. But I just wanted to get into this idea today of the mind being like an algorithm. If you were, how many of you have been to India before? Okay, maybe about a third of the people or so. More. Have you ever met like one of these real yogis? Have you ever gone like maybe up? You have to go a little bit north of Rishikesh. Maybe meet them in Rishikesh. You got to go a little further generally. You can meet some very interesting people. You go further and further up that mountain. It gets very beautiful as you start to go up there. Have any of you been up in there? David Prayag. The farthest I've been up is David Prayag, and that's still not going up that far, but it's really. Oh yeah, you can really feel it. There are people up there now, and there have been people up there for thousands of years doing the same exact stuff, practicing yoga. But yoga not meaning just the asana. They may practice asana, they may not practice asana. But if you met one of these yogis or yoginis up there, what's the real difference between that yogi and just like the average American? If you really had to boil it down, what's the difference? And I would say that the difference is that they were very aware of the state of their mind, and they were committed to upgrading the quality of their thoughts, because that's what yoga is. Now, I was brought up, maybe some of you were brought up in a similar way. I was given absolutely no information about this. Nobody taught me, hey, let's work on your thoughts. The most important thing in life is your thoughts, actually. I was kind of trained to think that I was my mind. People would ask me, are you happy? Are you sad? Right? Nobody told me that it's not you that's happy or sad. It's your mind that's in a temporary condition of happiness or sadness. And you're the one experiencing that mind. Okay, so that mind is not you. That mind is a thing. It's something external to you. And it's something that you can learn to gain control of. And if you can't gain control of it, then you can achieve the state that the yogis called samatvam. It's called even-mindedness, which means that it doesn't matter what's going on outside. It doesn't matter if it's a hot day or a cold day, right? Nowadays, if it's hot, everybody walks around saying, oh my God, it's so hot, right? And if it's cold, it's like, oh my God, it's so cold. I wish it was hot again, right? Hot or cold, my mind is the same. It's even. I'm not rocked by it, right? Hot or cold. What about honor or dishonor? Right? That's like a little bit more challenging, isn't it? People are saying nice things about you. Well, that's practically intoxicating. And then people are saying not nice things about you. That is so disturbing, right? Is it not? It's the kind of thing that can drive you crazy, right? And it can send your mind into loops. Yes? Have any of you ever had a mental loop where someone or some people were saying bad things about you? And it's not just like in that moment that you heard about it, you experienced it, but no, you carried it with you and it played in your mind and it began to play loops in your mind all the time. Maybe you're experiencing that, even in your current life. Okay? That's not you, that mind. You're not happy, you're not upset. It's your mind that's going through it. And so that's what the yogi understands. They also understood that if I can get to this samatvam level where my mind is even no matter what's going on, I'm actually free. Then only am I actually free. Mantra means to free the mind, right? Then I can be free. Otherwise, I suffer or enjoy due to outside circumstances that I have no control of. So the yogis say, let me get control of it. And then they realize that once you get control of the mind, you can be in paradise on a tropical island with all the facilities that you dream of, and you can be suffering in your mind. And you can be in a prison cell and actually be very content and happy. This is a fact. This is a fact, right? So we were trained, get a job, make money. With the money, you'll be able to adjust the external circumstances of your life and you'll be happy. True? More or less that was the formula? The yogis understood, no. In one sense, we don't have so much control. Even when you get all the money, you can't set things up the way you want. The people that you love walk away from you. The perfect, house that you had overlooking the ocean starts to burn down because there's fire. Whatever. There's always something external that we cannot change. But what we do have power over, potentially, is to control our own mind. And so the yogi said, let me focus on that. Good strategy? Yes? Makes sense. And these people were so brilliant that they had all kind of exercises and ways of looking at it that they could learn to gain control of that mind. Now, what we wanted to use today was an analogy of the mind being like a computer and our thoughts potentially being like algorithms that play out in the computer programming. If you took an iPhone, or let's say a laptop computer. Let's say you took a laptop computer and you brought it up to the Himalayan mountains and you went way up to the top. Let's say you went back a few hundred years though, before these inventions existed. Or let's say that yogi had been living for hundreds of years up there, because they say that this happens. Okay. And you showed him the computer, and I have a little diagram up here, right? A computer has got a camera connected to it, these external plug-in devices, right? A camera, a microphone, a set of speakers, and then an external hard drive. And you showed that whole thing to the yogi. They probably first look at it and wonder, what in the world is this? And then if you began to explain how it all functioned, they would say, oh, I see what you've done. You've just recreated basically the mental and physical body that we have as human beings moving around this world, right? We all have a mind, which is essentially a computer. It's connected to the senses. The eyes are essentially a camera. The ears are essentially a microphone, right? One takes in visual data, sends it to the mind, sends it to the computer. One takes in audio data, sends it to the computer. The yogis say that we not only have 5 senses, the yogis say we have 11. Right? If you go back to the ancient, they count the 5 senses that we call senses, they call them the knowledge acquiring senses. And then they have something that they call the senses of action, which means, let's see, the ability to grip and manipulate like that. The locomotive kind of sense, like to be able to move, you can say like the legs. The voice, and then the organs of evacuation and the organs of reproduction. They call these the senses of action. And then the 11th sense, so that's 10, and then the 11th is the mind itself, because it's all part of one system. They're all plugged in to the mind. Does that make sense? Right? Now, what is the tactile sense? I guess you could say it's the touchpad, right? Or sometimes the screens, you can touch them. And you can believe for sure that right now there's people in computer laboratories creating the virtual tongue and the virtual nose. Because no doubt that we could create instruments that can pick up, like if you put some kind of food on this sensor, it can determine what the ingredients are, what chemically is there, and they could determine whether it's sweet or pungent or sour, and then it could say, oh, that's sour. It could do that. Sure. And so all these senses, they're all just kind of plugged into our computer. Now, let's just look a bit into this. Let's say we had let's consider this. Consider that you were locked in a dark closet and you couldn't get out. And all you had in that closet was a computer and a Wi-Fi connection. All right? You can't get out. It's dark. All you have is that computer. What can you do in there? Well, you have the ability to communicate with the outside world through the computer, right? You can send out emails. You can take in emails. Let's just talk about what you could send out. You could create your own website and send out information. You could text people. You could, I suppose, have a Zoom meeting with people and send it. And through those same channels, you could take information in from the world, right? You could go to a website and take in information. All those different channels that we all use regularly, we could take that information in, right? And you could store it on your computer as well. You could process it in different ways, and you could store it on your computer. The yogis are saying that that's essentially what's happening with the mind. So if you show that whole setup to them and say, oh, we get it all. You modeled this. You could just go, you see, the yoga literature talks about this. It talks about the mind. It talks about the senses. It talks about the memory, right? It talks about all of these things. It just breaks down the equipment that we're moving through this world with. But the mind is going to be the most important one, right? The mind is going to be the one that we really need to get under control. And so you are sending out information, you're taking in information, you're processing your information, you're storing your information. You could store it on a hard drive, right? You could store it on the hard drive and even forget that it's even there. And then sometimes you might be able to bring it up. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this conversation to what I call the red pill, blue pill moment. Are you prepared for that? Yes? What that means is that I'm going to share something with you, and then you're going to have to decide whether to take the courageous path of truth or ignore the truth and live in illusion, blissful illusion perhaps. At least the yogis might see it this way. Let's say we have a laptop computer here right now, and we connected a camera to it, which serves as the eyes, and we connected some speakers to it, which serves as the voice. Okay, everybody's with me today. This is great. Then we program that computer that when we flash a red light in front of the camera, that what that does is it triggers a signal within the computer to play a recorded human voice that says, I like red. So when you flash the red light in front of the camera, then the computer says, I like red. That could be done, yes? Okay. We could also take that a step further, and when we flash a blue light in front of the camera, the computer responds by saying, I do not like blue. That could be done? Okay. Now here's the question. Big question. All right. I'm going to ask a side question first. On the podcast, we call this a squirrel. Does the computer like red and not like blue? Huh? I'm getting mostly no's here. Why is that? It's programmed, but are humans not programmed as well?
I think we have a soul.
We have a. What does that mean? We have a soul.
We're the kind of the person behind a computer, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, a computer doesn't really experience anything, but the user experiences something when looking at the computer, potentially. Right? That's the one ingredient we don't have here is actually the user. Right? There's also the battery, right? Or you could say the electricity that the computer is running on. The yogis say that it is the soul that is both the user and the battery. Right? It's the soul that energizes the human body and energizes the mind. The yogis say that the mind is actually made out of matter, the same way that our bodies are, but a very, very subtle matter. Yes?
Like the bikes at the gym, you ride on it and then it powers up.
Yes. Okay. Oh, the screens work from the cycling?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And so so we are the user, the soul, the yogis say, which is actually us, not the mind, but the soul is the user as well as the battery. It's spiritual energies, the energy of the soul that animates the body and animates the mind, turns it all on, makes it appear to be alive, although it's really not alive at all. Right? Life is spirit, according to the yogis. And it's only spirit that experiences. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali said, this great yogi sage, said that yoga means to still the mind so that it stops fluctuating. And if you could entirely still it, then he says the seer experiences their own true nature. This is a really important statement. I'm not going to go too much into it. But the point is, he says the seer, meaning it's not the eyes that see. The eyes are just what? Camera, right? It's actually the user of the camera, right? The soul. So he says the seer. He could have just easily have said the hearer or the smeller. But there's someone that experiences within the body, someone that even experiences the mind, and that's the soul, that's the user. Okay, that was my first question. That was the squirrel. Second question, this is the real relevant one here. Could we have programmed that computer the exact opposite way? So that it says, I don't like red and I do like blue. That would be possible? Okay, here's the red pill, blue pill moment. What the yogis are telling us is that from the moment that we wake up in the morning to the moment that we go to sleep at night, we are running around through this world trying to find the things that we think will make us happy and avoid the things that we think will make us disturbed or sad in some way. Yes? But they're saying all of that is based on false programming that could just as easily been programmed the other way, right? And so that really, if that's all true, then what that means is we're running around like directionless all the time. So the point is either we accept that right now and we do something about it, or we just forget about it and go on like we've been going on. And the yogi said, I'm not going to just go on like I've been going. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to very consciously program my mind. I'm going to gain control over it. The Bhagavad Gita says, Yato yato nischalati manas chanchalam astiram tatastato nayam yaitat atman eva visham nayet. That wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Right? This is what yoga is, right? Programming that mind. So I just wanted to explore this idea. We don't have a lot of time today, but I just wanted to explore this idea of what it means to control the mind in a practical way that us crazy people living in this crazy world could do. Certainly there's all different kind of yogic practices that we can do, and those are great. But what if we just kind of boil this down to even more simple principles that I would say are principles or practices that I would say are very much parallel with what yogis practice, part of their practice in life, but that we might be very easily able to relate to in our own world. Does that sound okay? So I wanted to take this computer analogy a little further. By the way, these computer analogies go incredibly deep. Like, they're very strong analogies that when I hear them, I say there's got to be truth to all this ancient yogic literature, because this computer stuff just parallels it so on layer after layer after layer after layer after layer. And one way to approach is they say that essentially we're living in a virtual reality. That goes like really, really deep. But another way to look at it is the algorithms in the mind. Now, I put a statement up here. Every thought programs the algorithm in the mind. Every thought. This is really important because I think we tend to think that, okay, I wasted a half an hour watching that sitcom, but what did I lose? I lost a half an hour and only in half an hour, right? I just spent the last 15 minutes scrolling Instagram. I lost 15 minutes, okay, but that's it. But the yogis are saying no. That 15 minutes you spent, yes, you wasted the 15 minutes, absolutely, you'll never get that back. But what you also did was you programmed your thoughts that will carry on with you into the future. So it wasn't just that 15 minutes. You potentially lost hours, days, months. You may have put loops into your mind that are staying with you over and over and over and over again. Right? So therefore, our thoughts become really important. Every thought is sowing seeds for the future thoughts. Make sense? It becomes really important what we think about and where we allow our mind to go. The yogis were honing right in on this. Really, and you could say it's like an algorithm. Because what happens when you're, let's say you're on YouTube, right? And you're kind of like seeing what's available, what it's suggesting that I should watch, and then that looks kind of stupid, but I got to check it out. Right? And then you watch that. Yeah, it was even stupider than I thought. Okay, and then you're like, let me move on. But the next time you come back to YouTube, what's going to happen? You're going to get a lot more of that stupid stuff, right? And you're going to be tempted again. That looks really stupid, but okay. Now you've done it again, right? Now it's going to start to send you more and more of that stuff. That's what happens with our mind. That's what happens with our thoughts, right? Sometimes there are different types of yogis. Sometimes the Buddhists do things like, have you heard of these, what do they call it, those 10-day Vipassana meditation? Has anyone done a Vipassana retreat here? You have to be very brave to do this because it's just you and your mind, right? And 10 days, no talking to anyone. You're just yourself alone with your mind. It's not an easy thing. For most people, it sounds a little scary, right? Then you go deep into your mind. You see what's in there, right? Maybe take a little antivirus thing to it and see what kind of patterns are playing out there. You know, sometimes you got to really open it up and see what's in there. Do a bit of an audit of it. Right? So this is the point: is that everything that we think about will come back. Everything that we think about will come back. Therefore, that's bad news, but it's also good news, right? If we're careful about what we choose to think about, those kind of thoughts will come back. And I think that we're all programmed in a way to think that working with the mind is like really, 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 really difficult work. Like, how many of you have tried to practice a little meditation before? Okay, most people. And generally when we do that, what do we discover very difficult? Very immediately? That's very difficult to control the mind. That even when we try to focus it and place it in a particular place, it just starts to wander due to all the previous program, due to the algorithms, right? I'm going to sit and chant this mantra, right? Or I'm going to sit and just try to clear my mind. What happens? The algorithms start popping up and saying, think about this, think about this, think about this, think about this, right? It's a lot of programming there. What if we could clear it? Okay, well that sounds great, right? Could we reset the algorithm like we could reset on the computer? Yeah, well, how do you do it? In many ways, you can do it the exact same way that you do it on your computer. And that's what we have here. Okay, everybody ready? We'll just go through this relatively quickly. And then let's see, we can talk. You know, we can talk about this, we can take questions, we can think about it. Does it sound okay? You with me? Okay. So the first one is clear your search history. We have consciously taken our minds to certain places. We've searched these things out, right? And then those things are coming back up again and again. There are many ways that we could go into this, but I want to talk about some of the ways that are most consequential, some of the ways that they play out in the most unpleasant and, let's say, negative ways. You know, I should share one statistic. I hope I can remember correctly, but they've done studies how many thoughts we have in the course of a day. Does anyone know how many? It's actually insane. They say it's 20 to 80,000 thoughts in a day. I mean, 80,000 thoughts? I don't know how to say. Whew. But that's okay. Let's say I thought 30,000 thoughts yesterday. But then they have another statistic that they do. Studies have shown. Ready? It's like, I forget the exact number, but it's practically like 98% of those thoughts are repetitive. In other words, it's the same stuff that we think about day after day after day. I get up, I get out of bed, oh, this is miserable. I go brush my teeth. You know, it's like so many of our thoughts are just like repetitive things that keep playing out in our mind. What is the quality of our mind? Well, that's going to be the quality of our life, right? So we've got all kinds of things playing out according to where we brought in the past. And I wanted to focus especially on these loops that keep coming back up because we've searched for them before, right? It's one thing to click on something. It's another thing to search for something. It really programs it into the algorithm. And so this is standard practice of yogis. Is Gorsharam Prabhu still here? See him back? This is the kind of stuff that in the ashrams that the monks practice, right? Like, let go of the loops tied to grudges and resentments. Think about that for a second. We even have gone to the stage in our world, I think through things like film and music, where we actually think it's cool to be holding on to grudges, right? But actually, it just creates misery in our life. It takes us completely away from the truth. right? Letting go of grudges and resentments. Forgive and stop complaining. You try this, even for one day. Try to not complain once in the day. Really. Really try not to complain even once. I've seen yogis do something like this. You know, like those rubber wristbands? People have sometimes. You wear the rubber wristband, and the first time that you complain in the day, you take it off, you put it on the other wrist. Right? Every time you complain about something, and you see how many times it goes back and forth. The yogis don't complain at all. They don't complain. My wife, she was a yogi, and she used to work in a Montessori school in Manhattan. And it's not easy working in these schools as a teacher, because you have the management, which they're under like a lot of pressure because they pay a lot of money sending your kids to these schools. So that makes the management is just under constant pressure from the parents. And kind of the school depends on the money coming in from the parents. And then there's the parents, and they're spending a lot of money. So they're very concerned about the experience that the child's having in there. And then there's the kids. That's a whole other thing. And then there's the teachers themselves. And the teachers are always criticizing the parents and the management is always criticizing the teachers and the parents are always criticizing the teachers and the management. You've got this like triangle. It's miserable. It's a constant state of stress. And you walk home full of mental loops and anxiety. Right? Even if you've risen to the top of it, like you've risen to the top level of management, maybe you even got it worse than anybody. Right? So you think I've climbed the ladder of success, but you're just walking home with a mind full of painful loops and negative experience going on. You're not any happier. Right? And so, but my wife, she was different because she's a yogi. She never complains. She never gossips. When everybody else was gossiping about the others, saying, oh, the management, this, blah, blah, blah. And it's not at all like progressive. It's not at all productive. It's not like they were saying, I think we could improve the management. I would like to share my suggestion. No, it's none of that. It's all this talk. Right? We start to relish it. We start to dig into it. You know, she would not engage in that. She wasn't like, she didn't like tell people not to, but they could just see she didn't have an interest in that. And because of that, even though people didn't know about her spiritual life, they began to understand she was a deeply spiritual person. And whenever they had some kind of trouble in life, they would go to her and say, can you help me? Interesting, isn't it? Let go of resentments. Resentments, it's this idea of forgiveness is a very important principle. The Bhagavad Gita, how many of you have read Bhagavad Gita? So then most of you probably know it's part of a much larger epic called the Mahabharata. Yes? Now the Mahabharata is one of the most incredible works of all time. Such an incredible. And there's one place in that book where a great sage is speaking about forgiveness. And he goes on and on and on. It's a long list that he reels off about. He says forgiveness is this, forgiveness is that, forgiveness. He's in many ways equating forgiveness to the merit that one accrues through a very strict yoga practice. If you can forgive, it's like doing tons and tons of austere yoga, like a yogi up in the mountains there. But he says this one statement, and it's so powerful, and I think it's a takeaway for today that you all might want to keep this in mind. Are you ready? You'll note this in your mind. Store it there. Store it on the hard drive of your mind. Maybe even keep it up on your what do they call it? Desktop, screensaver kind of thing. Forgiveness is a quiet mind. Forgiveness is a quiet mind. He says that. Forgiveness is a quiet mind. If we don't learn to forgive, then our mind will always be disturbed. He said forgiveness is what holds the world together. Forgiveness, so many things. You think that it's true, everything. But forgiveness is a quiet mind, right? We think that forgiveness means letting the person that we resent off the hook. Really what it means is that you free your own mind. Someone doesn't have to apologize for you to forgive them. you can just let go of your resentment towards them and become free. And you can't practice yoga without that. You can't gain control of your mind. Your mind will control you. Stop complaining and forgive. These are very powerful ways to reset the algorithms in the mind. Otherwise, negative loops are going to keep coming back at us, keep coming back at us, keep coming back at us. Make sense? Okay, next one. Unfollow and hide unwanted content, right? There's certain content, just like on the computer, certain things that we've clicked on in the past are going to keep coming up, or what to speak of if we've chosen to follow them. Sometimes, like, I follow someone on Instagram, and then they just keep sending me, like, okay, I've seen you in your bikini, like, enough times now. It's like, or whatever it is, and I just unfollow. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we potentially follow that keeps coming up again and again and again, right? And we just have to learn to unfollow it, right? How do we unfollow it? Here are some ways to do it. Practice redirecting the mind, and something that I call a mental pivot mantra. All right? Would you all like to hear a mental pivot mantra? These are powerful. They're really effective too. You've all heard of like positive affirmations, right? Like when you wake up in the morning and you go and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I am beautiful, I am worthy of love. Something like that, right? I don't want to speak, I realize that those things can actually help in certain ways, But the yogis had like richer ideas and practices, and we're going to get to those. But even in a simple way, I have what I call a mental pivot mantra. In other words, a statement, like an affirmation, but like a statement that I make in my own mind when I see my mind having to deal with a loop that's come up, some negative, any kind of negative or anything that's disrupting my mind from where I want it to go. Are you ready? I simply say this in my mind. I say, we don't think like that. All right? We don't think like that. And what do I mean by we? This is an important part, okay? I've had people in my life that I deeply respect, yogis, Bhakti yogis, that I really respect. And I think I want to rise to their level, right? To their level of thought, to their level of behavior. And I think that these are the kind of people that do not entertain the kind of thoughts that were coming up in my head. They don't relish them, they don't play them over, they don't seek them out. Rather, they ignore them or turn away from them. And in this way, they train the mind, or they set the algorithm. So when I say we don't think like that, I think of the people that I deeply admire, and I also think of people in the past, like the lineage of great yogis, that I want to take this life. I see my life as like a period of time wherein I want to enter into that stage that these great yogis were at. And if I'm never going to do it if I just allow my mind to follow its own algorithm. It will only happen if I get serious about resetting that algorithm. So when that kind of stuff comes up, I just say, we don't think like that. And when I say that, it brings their presence right into my mind. And it pushes out whatever it is that's so tempting to think about. Right? It's a way of training the mind. It's a way of resetting the mind. It sounds maybe too simple. I'm telling you, it's very effective. And I want to share another thought, and this is a really important thought. Is everybody with me right now? I think that we think that training the mind is too difficult. I could never really do it. It seems just like, but these thoughts just do come up. And I can't stop watching all the stuff that I watch, and I can't stop. I'm in this world, I'm lost in it. I don't believe that. And I think it's something like this. How many of you, like, let's say, jog or work out at the gym seriously, like regularly? Okay, just a few of us. Generally what happens is we take a New Year's resolution, yes, I'm going to go to the gym every day, or I'm going to start jogging every day, and we start and it's really hard. True? It's really hard, and we're like, okay, forget about that. It just kind of slips and we don't stick with it. But what people find is that if you actually stick with it a bit, it doesn't take too long where it becomes much easier, right? And then before long you start to enjoy it, and it becomes, like, I don't jog. I walk a lot. But if I started to jog right now, I would go for a while and it would be really quick before I'd be like a little bit out of breath. And I say, how did these guys just do it? They just like start running and they go for like an hour nonstop. Because they just stuck with it in the beginning. They got over the first hump. And then they got a little taste for it. Then they began to feel, this feels good. And then that reset the algorithm in their mind. I like this. This is satisfying. And now the mind became their friend instead of their enemy. But you got to get over that first hump, right? You got to get over that initial resistance that the mind is going to put up. And if you can get over that threshold, then a whole new world is going to open up to you. A new world of yoga, a new mental world is going to open up to you. But you have to have the confidence that I can do it. And sometimes what helps, not even sometimes, probably all the time, is if you have a partner or a group of people that you do it with, that you feel a little accountable. We got partners here? You see that? See, these guys together, right? When you have a partner that you do it with, you have a little bit of accountability and you're like, okay, we're going to do this together. And even when you don't want to show up, you show up, right? So we need other spiritual people in our lives, and we're going to kind of get to that, I think, a little bit down the line too, that are serious about this. But here's my thought. Do not think that this is too hard to do. You can do it. You just have to be just as determined to do it as you're determined to do anything else serious in life, right? You go to college, that wasn't easy, right? You went and got a job and so on, that wasn't easy. So many things. But what's more important than your mental life going on in your head? You know, that's the real quality of your life. Nothing's more important than this. Make sense? With me? Okay, so we have forgive, let go of mental loops, forgive, stop complaining. Anybody want to try that tomorrow? I will not complain once tomorrow. Anybody want to try? Raise a hand. Give it a try. Seriously. Write it down in your little book. I will not complain. Or get one of those little rubber bands or something like that and see if you can go a day without complaining, even once. Rationalize it. Well, okay, I complain, but in this case, there's a good reason for it. You know, that's another thing. We begin to go deeper in layers to see how I rationalize. This is what yogis do. They go into that mind. Sounds scary at first, but then once you get in there, it opens up a new life. Okay. Now, the positive side, right? You have to engage with new content. Be a conscious consumer. Books, media, friends, etc. Right? Again, going back to this, every thought matters. Don't think that just because I spend some time with this media, it's not going to be that consequential. There are consequences for it. It's going to keep coming back up, and you're going to be stuck in the same, I don't mean to say it like I'm talking down to you, but we are going to be stuck in the same mental loops that we've been stuck in for our whole life, you know? So that means that I'm going to have to be conscious about what I consume. The one way is to shut it down. The easier way is to replace it with positive stuff, right? Reading a book is also like going to the gym. Like, I need to read a book a month. That's what I'm going to do this year, right? And then you open to the first page and you're like, I'm sleepy and I don't want to, you know. No, you got to stick with it. And then again, you cross over that threshold and the book starts to become exciting. Then what do we say about books sometimes? I can't put it down. Instead of sticking with that meaning, read. What if I said, I'm going to read the Bhagavad Gita, some really high quality content, and I'm going to do it for 15 minutes a day? Is there any one of us that can't do that? How many of us read the Bhagavad Gita for at least 15 minutes a day? Okay, let's regroup over here. It's easy. You know, we just did a thing. We had 1,000 people, right, reading the Bhagavad Gita for about 15 minutes a day. And everyone was coming back saying, oh my God, this is so great. And it's changing my life. Why wasn't I doing this before? Right? Why wasn't I doing this before? Once you start reading 15 minutes a day, you know what's going to happen? You're going to cross that threshold. I can't put this down. Right? And you're going to replace the negative content with positive content. Be very careful what you consume, right? The books you read, the music that you listen to, that stuff is powerful, right? Just because it's catchy does not mean that it's uplifting. I once saw an interview with the opera singer, Placido Domingo. And he was being interviewed about music. And he said, and this, I'm not putting him down for saying this. I think it's quite, it's a statement of his own humility in a sense. He said that if it's music and if somebody likes it, then it's good music. Like that. He said if it's somebody, in other words, he was saying it doesn't have to be some super refined opera or something like that. But if someone likes it, it's good music. Maybe in one sense, but think about it. What does it do to the mind? Does it tend to uplift people? Does it tend to have people thinking thoughts that lead towards peace, contentment, happiness, that makes them capable of living more harmoniously with others, or to go deeper into spirituality? Or does it go in the opposite direction, potentially? And then is all music good music? Well, that's the yogis would, I think, look at it more like that, right? Is it purifying to my mind? Does it bring contentment, peace, clarity, lucidity to my mind? Or does it cloud my mind? Does it make my mind heavier? Does it make my mind darker? Does it make my mind more distracted, more disturbed? These are the kind of things that the yogis would consider carefully. Even the food that we eat, all these, whatever we're consuming through the senses, leaves an impression in the mind. Does anyone know what that's called? Something comes through the senses, leaves an impression in the mind. What do we call it? Samskara. It all leaves an impression. It's all like writing on a hard drive, right? That hard drive, the memory, right? Even we call it memory, right? Memory. In our memory bank, the yogis, they call this sometimes the chitta, the subconscious mind, the thoughts that we're not engaging with right now. They say that everything that comes through the senses, none of it just comes through the senses and then just dissipates, evaporates. Every thought, every sensory experience, everything we see, smell, taste, touch, or hear, is written on the hard drive in the memory, the subconscious memory that we have. And it becomes encoded with emotion. And from time to time, we don't know when or why necessarily, these thoughts rise back to the surface of our conscious mind and we experience the thought and the emotion again. So again, the yogis are very careful what they expose their senses to and carefully how they encode that file as it gets stored into the subconscious mind. Imagine if your subconscious mind was full only of valuable, substantial, healthy thought experience. You understand? That's what the yogis are doing up in the mountains. And the Bhagavad Gita teaches how we can do it in the world that we live in. Right? That was the theme of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, you can be a yogi just like the ones up in the mountains, but you can do it even working a job in this world, taking care of your social responsibilities. Make sense? So be a very careful consumer. That means I have to stop watching this television show? Yes. Yes, it does. I have to stop listening to this? Yes. Replace it. Replace it with something more positive. And very soon after you get over the initial hump, the initial threshold, you're going to start to get a taste for that instead. The same way, do you ever watch a television show and just say, why am I watching this crap? You know, I'm just so habituated in it. Right? Or what to speak of scrolling? Like, this is inane. Every one of these things is stupid. Like someone doing some kind of trick, someone acting very silly, someone... How did this stuff get into my world? Right? We've created such a bizarre world. It's going to take some determination. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it once we get control. Finally, like, follow, and subscribe. Right? When we like something or follow something or subscribe to something, what it means is that we've consciously made an effort that's going to come back again and again and again. Right? I want to do this again. I want to do it again and again and again, every day. Repetition and ritual are really important parts of the yoga culture. And yogis find a way to build those into life. Generally, practically always, if you ask the yogi about their life, they're going to say it's a life of regulation. I get up at this time, then I do this, then I do this, and I do this, and then I do that, and that, and that. Every day I do this, and every day I do that. And every morning I do this, every evening I do this. This is how you reprogram that algorithm, right? Ritual, right? Sometimes when we say that ritual, it kind of has a negative connotation. Right? That we think, oh, what's the problem with rituals often? Can anyone say?
It's mechanical.
I'm sorry?
It's mechanical.
They can become very mechanical. You do the same thing over and over again. And sometimes we don't even know why we're doing it. We're doing it because everybody's done it before. You understand? Maybe you have rituals in your life like that, or you attend rituals in your life like that. Why are we doing this? What am I getting out of this? But rituals can become very powerful, dynamic aspects of our life. I'll give you another example of my wife, and part of the reason why I think she could go into that school with such a peaceful mind and not be attracted to tasting that bitter stuff that we're all like interested in tasting. She would do a ritual every morning. You can see the same kind of rituals going on downstairs in the temple here, where there's, you could call it seva or puja, or archana, where there's the forms of the Lord that she worships, Radha and Krishna. And she would sing, it's a standard kind of ritual, where in your mind, the first thing that you do in your mind is you chant a prayer. You sit down, you bathe yourself, you dress in nice clean clothes, you sit down in a peaceful place, take a few deep breaths. Good, right? Now we're going to work on the mind. Then she would say this prayer. Essentially what the prayer said is, all the different roles that I do in this world, none of those are me. Right? Those are just temporary things that I'm doing. Who am I underneath it all? I'm the eternal loving servant of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, of the female and male manifestations of the Supreme. That's what I am eternally. I'm temporarily playing these roles. So you remind yourself of that and you say, for the next 20 minutes while I'm doing this ritual, that's who I am. I'll put on my outfits and go back into this world after, but every day for 20 minutes, I'm going to live in eternity. Right? You understand? And then it was just full of beautiful prayers, and you make offerings of flowers and fragrant oils and so many beautiful things. And these prayers are beautiful poetry that are all different spiritual expressions. And by the time you're done with that ritual, you're thinking beauty and happiness and satisfaction is found in serving others. It's a way of programming it into your mind. You do that in a very potent way. And if you do it every day, it becomes deeply rooted in your mind. What do I mean when I say deeply rooted? Deeply programmed. Right? I'm happy being spiritual. I'm happy being selfless. I'm happy when I'm not always trying to take, but when I'm giving. Right? Ritual. You just heard them blow the conch shell? These are rituals that have been done for more years than anyone can count in India. Right? They're carefully designed by brilliant yogis as ways of reprogramming the mind. If you go in that temple and you don't really know what's going on, it might seem, oh, this is interesting, or it's beautiful, or it's strange. But if you actually know what's behind it, it's actually a brilliant, aesthetically beautiful, brilliant way of reprogramming the algorithm in the mind. It's yoga. So there are many different kind of rituals that we can do. The yogis have it set up so that practically all they do, the cooking that they do in the home is all a ritual. What they do when they wake up, what they do when they go to sleep. Do any of you have a wake-up ritual or a go-to-sleep ritual? These are important. They're really powerful. What I do first thing and what I do last thing. Maybe it's just that I count my blessings. Maybe I say a prayer. Maybe I talk to God in my own heart every night before I go to sleep. These are important things. In all these different ways, we can reprogram the algorithm of the mind. We need to get control of it, or it will take control of us, and it's miserable when we're stuck in those loops. Yes? Okay, I'm probably went over time. I'm not sure. Does anyone know? Or I don't know if we have time for some questions. Or...
It's 6:48 right now.
And what time are we supposed to end? 6:45? 6:30? 6:15?
I think 7 is 5 o'clock.
Is it set? Could we take a few questions, Ruru? Okay, anybody have any thoughts or questions they'd like to share? Yes.
First, thank you for the class.
Thank
So
you.
nice the way you explain everything. I wanted to ask you about, we talk about the mind a lot, but also in Bhakti Yoga, we talk about the heart.
Yes.
How the heart and the mind, like working on the heart makes working on the mind easier, and if you don't work on the heart, it might just take way more time to do that. So how, if you can talk about that?
It's a very subtle question. I'm going to deal with it in a simple way, if that's all right for now. You see, the yogis don't say that the mind is here, actually. We tend to think of the brain as being the mind. But the yogis say it's kind of like, the brain is kind of like the radio. All right? The radio doesn't create the music. It's a signal coming from somewhere else. Right? You can say, well, look, I pulled out this part of the radio and it stopped working, so it was the radio that was creating the music. But no, it's actually a signal that's coming and it's playing through the radio. And so the yogis say that there's a mind and it's sending a signal to the brain, or it's sending signals are going back and forth between the mind and the brain. And the mind is situated in this area. But when we say the heart, generally what we mean is what we hold most dear and sacred within the mind. But we can actually feel it in the heart sometimes, don't we? Sometimes the heart skips, or we feel pain in the heart, or a heart break. These are just ways of feeling that mental pain, but we feel it right here in the body. And so when we say heart, in one sense it's the most important, you could say it's the most important part of the mind. It's the real core of it. Because really what it gets down, really what life is really all about is what we hold most dear. That's where we find our deepest happiness, our deepest pain. And so I think when we speak of the heart, we're speaking especially. Thank you. Good question. In the back, yes.
That part about mindfulness describe repetition.
I'm sorry? About?
The part about having repetition as a routine.
Yes.
What would your advice be when, if you have like an irregular lifestyle, like from your demands of life, whether it's work, whether it's, you know, when you have to work late and then be up early or whatever, like,
yes.
what's your advice on that?
Then you need it more than anyone. But it's not hopeless. Ultimately, we live in a world that's difficult for yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
We need to find ways to take the principles and bring them into our lives. Ultimately, it's the quality of our heart that's going to determine things. So we're going to try our best.
Right.
The Bhakti yogis believe that if we're trying our best, that God within the heart can make up for all the difference. And Krishna says that, right? I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. He says, for those yogis that are trying out there but don't have the ideal circuit, what happened was Arjuna, he realized, I don't think I can do this, be a yogi. And Krishna said, for those that turn to me and take shelter of me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. But you do need to try to find something, some things that you can build into your life. You go to sleep every night. So you can do something, even if it's just a few minutes, every night. You wake up every morning, even if it's just a few minutes. A lot of times the most important thing, and this may be difficult for you because you're in changing circumstances, wake up earlier. Go to sleep earlier, wake up earlier. Because that time early in the morning is going to be potentially the most valuable time that you've got. So yogis are really careful. When I was living as a monk, I lived for a monk for 13 years. And it trained me to wake up early. I used to wake up, a lot of times, right here with the K-Shra, we used to get up sometimes 2:30 a.m., right? Or if not, like 3 or 3:30, 4 o'clock latest, right? And now I find, that was when I was like in my 20s. Now I'm about to enter my 60s, right? And I find I wake up at 3:30 a.m. without trying, 3 a.m. sometimes, every day. Right? It became programmed into my system. It's easy. And that time is like really valuable. When do I go to sleep? I usually get like 6 hours. So like if I wake up at 3:30, if I went to sleep at 9:30, I can get up at 3:30, no problem. It's easy. Easy. Yeah, so find ways, little rituals when you eat, certain things that you have to do in the day. You can build your rituals on those. Or again, 15 minutes a day, Bhagavad Gita, things like that. I know it's challenging, but you can do it. Yes. I'm sorry? Yes.
Yeah, so a quick question. So when we think about ritual repetition,
Yeah.
all the instructions, right?
Yeah.
What is the identity of that person who's receiving this information? Is it the ego, or is it the timeless or limitless self? It feels like if it's a limitless self, it doesn't need any kind of ritual, right? It's always there.
No.
So are we saying that we have to first acknowledge our limited self, and that limited self is the one who has to learn, but then through that it kind of loses itself and becomes a limitless self?
What we're saying is that there's a spark of spiritual energy that is the self. And that self has been trapped and is confused, identifying itself with the body and the mind. And especially we're talking about the mind right now. So what the self needs to do is realize, I'm not the mind. It's not that I'm happy or I'm sad. It's that my mind is going through sadness programming or happiness programming. And I'm experiencing it. So I'm perfect as I am, except for the fact that I'm identifying with the mind and the body. So let me gain control of the mind and body and program it the way that I want to program so that it's harmonious with my own nature. And when the mind is harmonious with what's the nature of the self? The yogis say Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. What if I were to program my mind so that it's entirely harmonious with that? Then my mind and myself would be in perfect harmony. They would be, right now there's a tension between the mind. My nature is that I'm blissful, but my mind is going through cycles of disturbance. And because I'm identifying with the mind, I feel like I am disturbed. There was one great yogi. He was a man of the world, Vidura from Mahabharata. Right? He was like a counselor to like the rulers of his time, and he would speak truth. And one time he spoke truth to power, and the power didn't like the message and said, get out. And so he's kind of kicked out of the kingdom. He didn't complain. He didn't go through loops of resentment. He forgave, and he said, I'm going to use this time in the most positive way. So he went to the holy places, and he would meet with the sadhus, with the yogis. And there, on the bank of the Ganges River in Haridwar, Vidur approached a sage named Maitreya. And he asked him a really interesting question. You ready for this interesting question? Everybody? Yes? Really interesting question. He said, all these great books on yoga, they say that our nature is that we're eternal, we're full of knowledge, we're full of bliss. Ananda. Right? And they also say that the nature of the self is that it's unchanging, right? It's not affected by external things, the way that the material energy is always shifting, but the spiritual energy never changes. So if my nature is blissful, and if my nature never changes, then why am I not always blissful? Why am I up one day and down the next? Why am I happy and then sad? Why am I excited and then bored? Why am I joyful and then depressed? Good question, yes? Right? How do we lose touch with our nature? And essentially what he says is, there's no losing touch. Your nature is always there. But here's and he gave an example, because these sages, because they lived out in the forest, they often use nature analogies. And he said, if you look up in the moon at night, look up at the moon at night. If you look up at the moon, tomorrow's the full moon, right? So do this. Go up to your roof. we don't see the stars so well in New York, but you can see the moon. If you go up to your roof tomorrow, look at that moon. And when you see the moon shining in the sky, the full moon shining in the sky, it's steady. It's not flickering. It's not moving or shifting in any way. It's steadily shining light. But if you look at the reflection of the moon on a body of water, like say a river, the river is rippling, correct? And so when you look at the reflection of the moon on the water, then it appears that the moon is rippling. It appears that the moon has taken on the nature of the water. Understand? The water is rippling, the moon is steady. But if you think that the reflection of the moon on the water is the moon, then you think the moon has the nature of the water. You think the moon is rippling. He said that's the same thing that we do. The self is steady, blissful by nature, but it identifies with the mind that is constantly rippling, constantly shifting, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the key is that somehow or other we need to understand that I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm the spark of spirit that's eternal. And that's done a lot by hearing this kind of knowledge and reflecting on it as we go through our day. Reflecting means repeating it in our mind, particularly repeating it at times where it's challenged, where our peace is challenged, where our contentment is challenged, where we go through some, reflect, I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am the spark of spiritual energy, and respond from that level. Respond from that place of eternity, even though we're moving through a temporary world. And if we practice that, we become accustomed to it, and the mind begins to surrender to it. The mind begins to become programmed to that, and we can achieve this stage called samatvam, even-mindedness. It doesn't matter what's shifting externally. I'm steady because I'm not identifying with the material energy. I'm identifying with only myself, the soul. When the mind becomes programmed to that steadiness and harmonious with it, then there's a union, a unity between the mind and the self. And what's another word for union? Yoga. Like that is yoga. When we programmed our mind to be harmonious with our own nature through rituals, through knowledge, through meditation, through practices, ultimately through grace of God, right? Then we can achieve the goal of yoga. Yes, sir.
Hi. I have a question on, I'm aspiring to live with love and just be love,
Very good.
and finding it very hard.
Yes.
So how do you release judgment of, if you zoom out from our life and Earth and just kind of look at it all, even COVID can be good, even a fire can be good because it helps other things, and equally when we, even in a lot of spiritual conversations, we judge, or the words we use as like material or spiritual or greed is labeled as bad, and kindness is labeled as good. How do you kind of move past that? So whatever you encounter in your life, whether it's somebody that lies or cheats or is deeply rajastic or sattvic, it's all, you view it with the same, I don't know.
Same vision.
Same, yeah.
So same vision, there's a Sanskrit term for same vision. Right? Sama means same, darshana means vision, samadarshana. Bhagavad Gita speaks a lot about this. It speaks about samadvam, even-mindedness, and it speaks about samadarshana, equal vision, right? Even vision. This is such an excellent question you asked. And it brings us to something that we can all practice, okay? Because the yogis, it's not just sentimental stuff. Kumbaya, let's feel good. It is that. But it's based on knowledge. It's based on philosophy. It's very deep, rigorous, serious philosophy. And so you take a book like the Bhagavad Gita, what the Bhagavad Gita does is it takes volumes and volumes of this rigorous philosophy and it shrinks it down into 700 verses and presents it in a way that you can practice it in the world. There's no book like it. And that's why of the thousands of scripture or sacred texts coming out of India, by far, none of them is as popular and as quoted and as practiced as the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing even comes close. Nothing comes close. Very practical book. So the Bhagavad Gita, again and again, Krishna is going to speak about this samadarshana, equal vision. And here it is. It's based on knowledge. It's not just based on sentiment. If you're just going based on sentiment, it's going to fizzle out. It's got to be based on truth. And so this is the truth, that we are all little sparks of energy moving through different bodies. And we're all shifting all the time. One lifetime I'm in the body of a male body, the next time in a female body, the next time in an animal body, even plant body. Wherever there's life, birth, growth, reproduction, maintenance, dwindling, and ultimately death, it means there's that spark of life is there. And they're all equal. It's not that there's a human soul and an animal soul and a plant soul. They're souls of equal potency, equal potential, equal quality, but they seem different because they're operating through a different body. Just like I could be fast one day if you give me a fast car, and I'll be slow the next day if you put me in a slow car. But I'm the same. Similarly, we're all the same sparks of spiritual energy. Yogis are thinking about this and reflecting on it as they go through the day. And so they think, let me share an analogy with you. Imagine if we lived in a society wherein your entire worth was judged by the car that you drove. Okay? Your status in society, how people looked at you, the privileges that you're given, your ability to get this job or meet this person or whatever. What people were looking at was your car. Is our society somewhat like that? But this was like just, oh, it's all about the car, right? Now, some people are walking around or driving around in luxury vehicles like a Lexus or Mercedes or BMW or Bentley or things like that. And these people, everybody's like, whoa, look at them. Look at the car. I wish I could be like that. These people are so lucky. They're better than us in so many ways. And then people that are in like these, you know, what's the economy car? I don't even know anymore. Like, what's the cheap? Kia? I don't know. Kia. These people are just kind of like, you know, a little depressed about their situation, and you know, they're not allowed into the upper circles of the other car drivers and so on. Maybe they're beginning to develop some resentment, yes? And why do those guys with the fancy cars get everything? You know? And the people with the fancy cars are beginning to think, we are better. We're better than them in every way. It's, look. Okay? Okay. That's not the nicest world to live in, I think, yes? Or we might say, whatever, I'm going to get the good car, you know. Now imagine this, that everybody had to switch cars every single day. You with me? So you're driving a Bentley one day, and then you're driving the Kia the next day, and then you're in the BMW the next day, and then you're in the whatever the next day. You understand? What would that do to how everybody's seeing each other? No longer is there this like second-class citizen, first-class citizen. Now everybody knows we're all just shifting cars. We're all equal, and we're just shifting these cars. So even if I'm driving this fancy car, I can't become too proud about it. And even if I'm in this, you know, economy car, I can't become too depressed about it because we're all just shifting cars. With me? It means we begin to see samadarshana. We begin to see each other equally. The yogis are seeing it this way, that we're all just shifting bodies. I'm handsome one life, I'm not so handsome the next life. I'm strong, I'm weak, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm man, I'm woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm human, I'm animal, I'm plant, I'm sinner, I'm saint. This is the way the yogi thinks. I've gone through all of these. I've gone through all of these. I don't know how many times, and everybody else is going through them all too. Right? This is knowledge. This is called jnana. Right? This is the knowledge that gives one this vision. Okay, so now that I know that, and I want to be yogi and I want to deepen this understanding, this samadarshana, I play my life like this. I say, I'm going to go out into my world today. What do you do for a living?
Conscious entrepreneur.
Conscious entrepreneur.
New businesses to positive impact.
Do you have like an office that you work out of?
Some days, yeah.
Okay, you're really like.
I try not to. It's a new time.
Okay, well, let's say you're going to your office and you're thinking today as a conscious entrepreneur, it may be a good day business-wise or maybe a bad day business-wise. Yes? You can't control that. What you can control is that you give it your best effort today. Yes? So I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give it my best effort, and the results are ultimately up to God. Because there may be people working just as hard as you, just as smart as you, and getting nowhere. Right? So you do the best that you can do. Now, you're going to meet people today. Some of them may be kind to you. Some of them may be unkind to you. Yes? In the course of your day. But what you're going to do is you're going to say, whether they're kind to me, if someone's kind to me, wonderful. I'm going to be kind to them. Right? And if someone's unkind to me, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be kind to them. Right? Because I know that their unkindness coming to me is due to my karma. Right? If they're not being so kind to me, it's because I haven't been so kind in the past to others as well. It's coming back at me. Right? They're just a little spark in that machine, and it's coming at me. And by the way that they're acting, I've acted that way many times. I may have acted that way yesterday. If I'm not careful, I may act that way tomorrow. I'm not better than them. We're all in this together in a big mess, right? Trying to be better. Some of us might be trying harder than others, fine. But I know that unkindness, let's even say cruelty maybe, that came out of that person at me, there's a pure soul underneath, and the energy of that pure soul is filtering through their mind. And and their mind is somehow warped. So that was a pure energy. Ultimately, what it is, the yogis actually, real yogis know this too. It's all just a call for love in one way or another. If you really think about it, right? Even our being mean to others, it's either an expression of love or a call for love. And it's coming through this warped mind at me. But there's a pure soul underneath it. Let me forgive it. Right? Let me forgive it. And I'm going to do that with everybody that I meet. Right? And I'm going to practice that every day. And some days I'm going to fall short, and I'm going to reflect right then, I wasn't the yogi we don't think like that. We don't act like that. Right? And then you cut it with that. And then you try again, and you try again. And in this way, what do? You reprogram your mind. Right? So that you begin to respond to that to everyone. And now when you're walking down the street, like, you don't think, oh, hot girl. No, you think soul in that body. I'm not. There's three things that the Bhagavad Gita talks a lot about for these yogis. Samatvam, even mind. Hot or cold, it doesn't matter. My mind stays even. Samadarshana, I'm seeing the equal soul in every living being. Third one, anta sukha, internal happiness. My happiness is not dependent on anything external to me. Right? My nature is happiness. Where I'm going to find true happiness is when I'm able to go deep within inside myself. And that only happens in the settled mind, in the peaceful mind. Right? So I'm not judging everyone. We tend to move through life thinking, judging everyone on how much pleasure they can bring us, status they can bring us, prestige they can bring us. Even if it's just like a momentary thing, like looking at, he's cool, he's not. She's hot, she's not. It's like we're stuck in these ridiculous patterns because of all this garbage that yogis don't think that way. They're seeing the soul. They're seeing the soul. When I say they see the soul, what I mean is they relate to people on the spiritual level. And when you meet someone that's like that, that's really like that, that's deep like that, they're like someone you never met before, like in your life. It's like, you feel like, for the first time, someone actually, like, on a soul-to-soul level, communicated with me. You get, like I was saying about my wife, people trusted her because she was living like a yogi in that environment that was not so yogic. So you can practice love like that. Even you're coming at me with that negative energy, I know that you are a spark that's just as dear to God as I am. And I want to see with the vision of God, meaning I want to see you the way God sees you. I want to see you the way I'm not harmonious with God unless I'm seeing you the way that God sees you. So let me practice that. And then you tolerate. Yogis are very tolerant. Some of these yogis are going up into the mountains and tolerating, sitting still in the rain, in the hot sun. This is how we can tolerate, right? Someone's unkind, someone's a little cruel, someone's a little crude with us. I tolerate. I don't let it affect how I think about them. I don't let my mind go through negative loops. I reflect on this wisdom. This is coming at me because of my own karma. This is a pure spirit soul underneath a warped mind. And I just keep sending that love, feeling that love. We can practice yoga like that. And it's a very powerful yoga. It's even more powerful than up in the mountains.
Actually, like how you explained it, and my relatability to it is in this life, Because there's many things that you can only, like if a taxi driver honks at you
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah.
You can think there have been times where I've also honked at somebody for no
Yes.
reason. So,
We do. I mean, traffic is like one of those places where we're really the most absurd, right?
Yeah.
When someone does something to us that we've done a million times and we're screaming at them.
There's a lot of hypocrisy that divides us, but if we connect to oneness, I really like how you explained it, that even as something as like a murder or like something in past lives or we're all part of it all. How do you connect with that energy?
Yeah. One other thing, another kind of like a construct that the yogis use is body, words, mind. Okay? What we can, the yogis want to adjust each one of these. So let's say let's take it into more, let's say you're getting on the subway and someone bumps into you. Now you're both there on the car together and you got bumped. They were inconsiderate. They should have been more careful in this social environment that they're moving through. And they bumped into you in a way that was potentially disturbing. Now, how are you going to deal with it on the level of the body? How are you going to deal with it on the level of the words? And how are you going to deal with it on the level of the mind? And those are in a particular order. The first one is the easiest to control. The second one is a little bit more difficult. And the third one is the most difficult to control, right? So maybe I don't hit them. I mean, I might hit them and push them back, right? Maybe I can refrain from responding with my body in that way, but maybe I say something and watch it, or something like that. Or maybe I get that under control, but still in my mind, creep, jerk. When I'm thinking like that, I'm not thinking the way that a saint thinks. We don't think that way. That's not the way the sadhus think. That's not the way the yogis think. And it's not the way God thinks. So that's the idea. Let me get my body under control. Let me get my words under control. And ultimately, let me get my mind under control. And again, it's just a question of training it every day. Seeing with that. Reminding the mind to see on the level of Samadarshana. Our body, words, mind. Throughout the Shastras, throughout the sacred text, it refers to these three again and again and again. Yogis use this. Okay. Thank you very much. I think we're out of time. Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed wonderful group of people here. We could be friends, and uplift each other and practice yoga together. This is what we need. We need some bonding like this, and this is a great place to do it. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mr. Stu. Thank all of you. So, for all of our programs, we'd like to end with a delicious vegan feast that's been cooked with love and devotion for all of you. But before we head over there, or here, I'm going to show you. We have some other events that you can attend. Tuesday night kirtan. We have wonderful, very, very talented, but also very deeply conscious leaders that will lead us in kirtan. There are also community groups that you can join. All of this you can find on the Bhakti Center's website, which is here. We announce our speakers and the topic once a week, so if you want to get on the WhatsApp, it's just once a week announcement. Give us your feedback if you have any cool ideas or anything you want to see change, let us know. You can also be part of the volunteer sign up. We have different services you can do as far as this program and any other programs. And this is also a way to connect to your community group. So, Om Tat Sat, thanks a lot. Make a friend. You can also meet with Kaustubha, and everyone can just come up and we'll come around and go around this way, and you can get yourself a nice plate. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I appreciate the lesson a lot.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
Leon and
Yeah.
you broke things down really well in such a way that I have like a deeper clarity and understanding
Wonderful.
of how the mind works and how I could learn to act and behave differently accordingly. Yeah, and this is just up to you. I have a YouTube channel on mental health and spirituality, and I would like to interview you
Okay.
if you choose to.
Yeah.
You're welcome to
Why,
look at
why don't you send me an invitation? Should I give you my email address so you can send me an invitation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I like the email address. There you go. You put your email here and I'll send you the email. My name's Leon.
Yeah.
On my channel, I've interviewed a Buddhist monk before called David Listen.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a good experience. He was my mentor.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
What's your, is it a podcast or what kind
It's a YouTube channel. I could say
YouTube channel? What's it called?
It's under my name. It's under my name,
Okay.
Leon Fett.
Yes, subscribe to Wisdom of the Seas. Enjoy the talk. You can.
I had this very interesting coincidence. I had a really negative spiral in mind before, and then I was sitting down on the ground, and I looked on the ground in the dirt, and I saw this face down like this. And I picked it up, and I saw the calm face of Buddha.
Okay.
And it's like, now I have like this regular reminder of how I would like to be.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm tired.